The changeling is a facsimile that has been left in the place of a human taken by the fairies. They are common in folklore across Europe. Often it was children that were taken and replaced with a horribly altered substitute in its place. It was believed that a docile, beautiful baby would be replaced with an elderly, dying fairy, or a baby fairy that needed mortal food to thrive. Some myths were that fairies stole babies in a deal with the devil to sacrifice them in a blood ritual. The folklore was used to explain the onset of unexplained sickness in a previously healthy baby, or deformities in the child. To prevent children from being snatched, iron was kept near the crib to ward off fairies. Unfortunately, these beliefs led to terrible consequences for some families who believed their loved one was gone and replaced by a dangerous impostor. In Kerry in 1884, Anne Roach drowned 3-year-old Michael Leahy, who could not stand or speak. One of the most famous cases was that of Bridget Cleary. Bridget sold eggs from her hens to supplement her income as a dressmaker. Part of her egg round took her on to Kyle na Grana Hill, a local fairy fort. Fairy forts or raths were ancient Irish settlements that people believed were home to fairies. The hill was home to one of her customers, Jack Dunn, who was a Shanachie, a custodian of the ancient lore. March 1895 was bitterly cold, and Bridget caught a chill that confined her to the cottage for several days afterwards. However, for some reason the usually healthy woman did not throw off the illness, but instead became steadily worse. Various friends and neighbours called round to see how she was. However, when Jack Dunn came to visit, he took one look at the wan and dishevelled figure in the bed and declared, "That is not Bridget Bolland." Michael Cleary, Bridget's husband, overheard. From then onwards he became convinced that the woman in the bed was not his wife, but a changeling. Ignoring the medicine and diagnosis of the local doctor, Cleary turned to Jack Dunn, who recommended he visit Dennis Gainey, a local fairy doctor. Gainey did not visit Bridget himself. However, he did give Michael Cleary a herbal mix with the 9 cures in it, to be administered to the patient mixed in new milk. This cure was a standard one in cases of changelings and designed to restore the real individual. As many contained foxglove, the concoctions were more likely to finish the patient off. However, other methods could be used to identify and exorcise a changeling, including harsh, persistent questioning and the threat of fire. All of these methods were used on Bridget Cleary on March 14, 1895. When neighbours came to visit Bridget, a fearful scene greeted them. Jack Dunn and her cousins Patrick, James and William were holding a weak and distressed Bridget Cleary on the bed. Bridget's aunt, Mary Kennedy, waited nervously by the door, while Michael Cleary forced his wife to take the herb-laced milk. Bridget was screaming and complaining it was too bitter. However, Cleary held Bridget's mouth shut to force her to swallow, intermittently demanding if she was Bridget Cleary or Bridget Boland, wife of Michael Cleary, in the name of God. There was a huge burn mark on Bridget's forehead, caused by a poker that had been used to threaten her earlier. The harsh questioning continued, and Bridget was drenched 3 times with a noxious fluid that was probably urine. After the 3rd dose of herbs, the men lifted her out of bed and shook her back and forth before Jack Dunn ordered them to make a good fire and we'll make her answer. Bridget was then carried to the grate and held over the flames while her father asked her, "Are you the daughter of Patrick Boland, the wife of Michael Cleary?" "I am, Dada," Bridget said, in a voice made loud with terror. The following night her husband Michael tore off Bridget's clothes, only leaving her in her chemise. As he brandished a brand from the fire in his wife's face, Cleary set his wife's chemise alight. He then poured paraffin over Bridget's body, sat in a chair and watched her burn. On March 22nd, 1895, constables found the charred remains of a woman's body in a shallow grave in the corner of a boggy field near Clonmel in southern Tipperary. The torso was severely burnt and naked, except for a few remaining scraps of cloth from the victim's undergarments and her black stockings. However, her head was covered with a sack. When they removed this, the police found themselves face to face with the undamaged face of missing Cooper's wife, Bridget Cleary. Michael Cleary was found guilty of manslaughter. He was sentenced to 20 years penal servitude. After 15 years, Cleary was released. He emigrated to Canada, never to be heard of again. Bridget's story has become part of Irish folklore, and her tale has been immortalised in the local children's rhyme. Are you a witch, or are you a fairy, or are you the wife of Michael Cleary?